The last presentation of the day, and by no means the least, but now we're going to be looking internationally. Derby through global eyes. So I'm going to make the introductions. So firstly, I'm going to introduce John and Caroline, who are from Jukwaa Arts Productions in Mombasa, Kenya. And Jarvis, who's the artist. And we find ourselves here with thanks to the British Council Catalyst Grant. UKNA and Jukwaa Arts Productions have been undertaking reciprocal scoping missions to establish a new global artistic community. So myself and Jarvis were unbelievably in Mombasa last week.
Yeah, it's been a month.
Yeah. So it was just like, wow, and now we have the wonderfulness of inviting back our new friends here to Derby. John, Caroline, can I ask you just to share a little bit about your work?
Okay, thank you. So Jukwaa means stage. It's Swahili. So Jukwaa means stage, so it's basically stage arts. You could move to the next slide. I want to take you to Mombasa and back to Derby in like 2 minutes. So this is just signature of Mombasa. On the streets of Mombasa, the tuk-tuks are many. And that's our iconic tasks that were actually made in honor of Queen Elizabeth. Yeah. But this is like the main street in Mombasa. It's called Moi Avenue. And those tasks were built in 1952 in her honor. So we can move to the next slide. Yeah, and at Jukwaa Arts, our work is mainly using performing arts to voice social issues. So most of our work revolves around performing and a bit of visual arts, but mainly to voice social issues within our community. And now we are realizing that these issues are also global issues. We could move to the next slide. I'm a firm believer of the arts don't have to be confined to buildings and institutions. Maybe it's a defense or a reflex because we don't have too many institutions where we practice in Mombasa. But I think arts need to be consumed by everybody, and people are everywhere, so we take the arts everywhere, and that's exactly what we do. We take the arts everywhere. This was like, it's literally on the street. This is at the beach, and people show up because naturally people just hang out at the beach. Mombasa is on an island, and the only place to go for free is the beach. So people go there, so why not take a performance there? So these are some of our performing spaces, our alternative theaters. Keep going. Yeah, we also have outdoor exhibitions. This is part of a project we call the Bahari Huru Festival, which is a festival we do to advocate for marine conservation. And we get artists in residency, so performing visual artists, and they learn from researchers, scientists, and also from indigenous communities, fisher folk. And then they create artwork. And then this is between June and September. And then in October, we showcase it in a moving festival. So this was some work by some visual artists. And it was very interesting because this is at the beach, and what are they called? The fishermen allowed us to use their boats as an exhibition space. It was very beautiful. And this was us trying to make, like, what are these called? I know the word in Swahili, it's called a banda, like just a makeshift house into an exhibition. Yeah, please keep going. Yeah, and one of the other things we do as Jukwaa Arts is we have a platform we created called Art Cocktail, which is actually where our conversation with Michelle and UKNA began. It's a platform that brings together artists and lovers of arts. Just on the, okay, fine. Just keep it on this slide then. And the reason I had put the previous picture, I hope you noticed there were masks. So Art Cocktail began in 2019, in August, and we just brought together artists to come and experiment, try out new work, present it to a small audience before you take it maybe to a paying gig. And it's been a platform that has grown, and artists have really grown, networked, collaborated, and like they're sad success stories. That picture there was the first edition of Art Cocktail in August of 2019. I don't know that you can notice John somewhere there. He was much smaller. much younger. Yes. And I literally just called a few artists I knew and told them, hey guys, I'm starting this. Come to our space, it's a free platform. I'm not paying you and you're not paying to come perform, but just come, let's hang out, let's network. And it happens every Tuesday from 6 to 8 p.m. It's happened over the years. During the pandemic, of course, when now we couldn't do much, we moved it to an online space. So we used to do it online via Instagram. It was so hard. I hosted it and I had small babies and they were screaming in the background and artists are performing. But we made it, it really helped keep us together because artists didn't have places to showcase their work until our government then realized that they can no longer keep us in our houses. So we were led to open up spaces. That's why the previous picture, people are still in their masks. It was still in the pandemic, but it was not so, like it was a few months later, like towards the end of 2020. So that was the first picture, and this is a picture we took on 1st of October, like 5 years plus later, when Michelle and Jarvis came, and you can see we can literally not even fit in the picture. It was so amazing to see, oh my goodness, this baby has grown, and the need for artists to meet is really there because guys have grown and collaborate and you meet. Yeah, so this is one of our projects that we are really, really proud of. It doesn't earn us any money, but yeah, we keep going. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, and when I was thinking about collaborations, just to maybe help us move into the conversation we are going into, is this project that we did on archiving traditional cultures of a native community from the coast called the Mijikenda. And when we were doing that, we had to collaborate with the older generation who are the current custodians of these cultures, because we needed to hear the stories from them, to learn the music, the dances. We were trying to archive their ceremonies. It was a very interesting process. In this first picture, I remember when we went to that community, they told us we can't speak to you when you're dressed the way you're dressed. So we had to wear their traditional outfit, the blues and the red and black for the women. They told us, no, I mean, you want to learn about culture, you can't come like this. So they made us dress that way. Of course, at first it was like, okay, you guys are not serious. But we're like, yeah, we need to learn the stories. And this is what they have said. So we did it. I remember we bought palm wine because they had to like do some rituals to bless the ground before they start any conversations. And on this other one, it was a similar process. We were meeting old men, and this is like a sacred mango tree. It's a sacred meeting space. So I don't know if you can see, like for the women, we were two ladies. We were not allowed into the inner circle. So like we had to sit behind and we had to tie wraps around her. But the men, like John, I think, moved closer, but there are bits where we were also not allowed to go to. For the men, it was okay. We also had to remove our shoes. It was an interesting experience, but what it made us realize is the beauty of respecting other people's cultures when you want to work with them. And as we begin this intercultural conversation, I think that is something to keep in our minds. Next slide. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, this is just a provocation as we move into the next conversation. International collaborations. And the reason I put that map that way is because I think the moment we have global North-South collaborations, there's already some pointers we've put in our head on where maybe the resources will come in, who's where on the divide. But when we turn that map, I think it allows us to know that we are all bringing something to the table. So let's not ask what we have or what we don't have. Let's come in because this map can be either way. Thank you.
Thank you. So, as I mentioned, myself and Jarvis spent about a week in Mombasa, returning last week. Caroline and John arrived yesterday, so so they haven't had quite as much time within the city. But I'd like to speak to perhaps some of our reflections and our time there. So I wonder, well, first of all, I digress. Jarvis, can you share a little about who you are as an artist and the work you've done with UKNA, your painting? Yeah, just give an insight to who you are.
Sure. So as you know, my name is Jarvis, and I am a painter. I'm really interested in the kind of universal aspects of what it means to be human, from the spiritual and the intersection between the spiritual and the physical. So I'm also interested in religion and history, and create very colourful paintings that kind of explore the fluidity of nature and the interconnection of all things. So I came into contact with UKNA back in 2021 when they announced an open call for artists to enter, to have their work exhibited at Saatchi, which is obviously very attractive. And so I jumped at the opportunity, and luckily enough my work was selected, which, among 9 other brilliant artists, our work was exhibited at Saatchi, won the People's Choice Award, which was an international opportunity, hence the journey to Mombasa. And ever since then, I think there are many artists in here, and we are all related to the art sector. We know that being a creative, you are kind of, I'm not far off from a hermit, I just kind of work in my studio, and that's what I think about the most. So I think one of the beautiful things over the years is UKNA have done several projects that I've been able to be a part of or experience, and just realising how important it is for us to have these kind of conversations, because many of us feel those frustrations of wanting to talk about the things that we're passionate about but not being able to connect with people who don't really understand. So I was speaking with Mike just a moment ago about how the energy that you kind of feel when you get to talk to fellow creatives and be in this space. What was the second part that I'm rambling on?
No, that's a very good summation of you as an artist and as a person. One of the reasons we invited Jarvis was he really loves to chat. No. It was very important for us that I did not go on my own. I wasn't representing the organisation, but I represent artists. So, I have to do a certain amount of work in terms of the follow-up as an organisation, but it's important that an artist is with me, experiencing this and having that viewpoint. Now, we'd love to have taken loads more, but funding is limited, so it was myself and Jarvis who went. So, that was the role that Jarvis has, was to, obviously, amazing opportunities and individual artists, but also to kind of see perhaps what the opportunities were for others, the way in which Jukwaa Arts worked, generally kind of take that creative perspective on things. So I don't know if you want to speak to some of the things that you saw through your eyes of what was happening then, maybe in reflection of, being an artist from here.
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the biggest things was the art cocktail event, which was the first thing that we got into experiencing, the work that Jukwaa Arts does. And me and Michelle even spoke about it after. Just the level of engagement and camaraderie was really refreshing. Like I forget their 2 names. The guys on the couch.
Oh,
you got
Coach.
Yeah. They were having a very good time, that way.
Yeah, but also, people having multiple talents as well. So, you've got, think about Gemini who raps, but he also dances. And then I know he's involved in writing other things. He draws as well.
He's a painter.
L4, who also draws and paints, but also does poetry. John with acting and directing, Caroline with producing and directing. So for me, that was really interesting to see how almost everybody's multifaceted in what they're able to do. And just the kind of, I did actually say on the first, after that, I felt more comfortable there than I do here. I was born and raised here. I've got African heritage, of course, and Cameroonian, but it just, I felt very comfortable. People were just themselves unashamedly, and I guess a lot of people are here too. I'm not saying that isn't the case here, but that was really refreshing. Like, there's no sense of negativity towards people just being themselves and being playful and silly and embracing their creative talents, you know. So I'd say, yeah, definitely the sense of camaraderie and the spirit of playfulness is something that was refreshing and isn't something that I've experienced here. And of course, culturally, we are two different places, but there was that, I think I've already said the word playful multiple times, but that playfulness is definitely something which I think we need more of that here somehow, to kind of remember that we're all in the same boat together, I guess.
Thank you.
Yes.
You know, obviously, you know, I concur with everything that Jarvis said, and that day, that Tuesday before our cocktail, we actually had the opportunity to meet with probably about 10 or 12 of the Jukwaa Arts artists who kind of work with you. And, you know, we wanted to kind of find out, you know, where your head at, what the issues that drive you. A bit like today in some ways, you know, what's it all kind of about, really. And, you know, I was expecting to hear something entirely different, you know. We are very different places, you know, it was 30 degrees, you know. It was like, this is going to be in very different kind of opportunities, or what they're kind of interested in. And what I did hear, I was like, yeah, okay, same, yeah. You know, the value of artists within society, not being recognised, you know, families wishing you would do something else and not do art, lack of money, having to get a second job. And I was like, oh my God, you know, this is like, we are so different, and yet this is exactly, I said to Caroline and John, when you come here, you will hear the same things. We are so not far apart in actually the reality of what makes an artist. So it was wonderful to kind of share that and hear that. You know, the openness, the sheer kind of welcome that we got from the artists, from Jukwaa. It's like, you know, we are so pleased that you are here, and that we get to connect with you and engage with you and share our work with you, is something that I hope that you feel when you're in Derby, because that would be everything to me. You know, I think one of the words I said when we were going around and with different things we were doing was, it's so entrepreneurial. You know, Jarvis has spoken to the fact that, you know, the creatives find any means possible. So they may not have any money, so they'll find a way of creating and finding a way for that outlet to be. The music was sensational, you know, you know, even for me to be up and dancing at the end of the night, because you're carried away with just like the sharing, the love, the quality of the work was sensational, you know, and the spirit of artists wanting to be in the space and go, hey, this is what I do, will you listen? And everybody being like, yeah, you know, whoop, you know, totally. And how then you'll see them next to it and acting in a play. You know, the need, the drive to be creative was really high. And that spirit was really high. And that was something that I kind of felt very moved by. And, you know, again, this is not because that is something that we lack here, but, you know, the kind of get up, the sort of purpose of today in a way was that kind of DIY, entrepreneurial. Don't wait for somebody to hand it to you, because, you know, we're just going to do it. We're going to find a way of doing it. We're going to make this happen. We're going to find the space to do what we need to do. And that was really lovely. And I kind of always want that sort of to find that energy back in this country and ignite that passion, which I see so often, but sometimes can be unfanned. I think there was somebody said about fanning the flames earlier, and I thought, yes, that's exactly it. I think again, with the concerns and the issues, we did Art Cocktail. Another big reason we were there was the you know what I'm like.
It's okay.
Bahari Haru.
Yes.
Bahari is sea, it's the ocean, Mombasa is an island. This city is not without its issues in terms of ecological crises, and you will see beyond the most beautiful, extraordinary place, turquoise oceans, and there you'll see a bloody plastic bottle bobbing by, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you'll turn and you'll kind of see, and it's like, and we know we have that here. We've got a problem. This is a global issue. So what are artists actually sharing? That was a connectivity that we're kind of interested in exploring, because that's two shared issues across kind of Kenya and the UK. The leaning into the traditions, learning much more about the culture of Kenya. Caroline has spoken a little bit about some of the traditions, the mango tree, and just this where this country has been born from and where these kind of ideas and narratives come from was also celebrated through the festival. We went to a wonderful play. Where these, there was a lovely exhibition which helped kind of us interpret, because the play was predominantly in Swahili. So myself and Jarvis were a bit more. We're there in spirit. We think we know what's happening, but then when there was a really funny bit, everybody laughing, we'd be like that. I don't know what that was, but hey. And learning about the meanings of some of these things, that the traditions of how you treat your environment and the ocean, and what the ocean gives you in terms of food, your lifestyle, those things don't go away. You may have a different lifestyle, or Mombasa has grown up. It's a beautiful city. And there goes my notes. However, this speaks to a way of living and a kind of purpose and a culture. So, oh, bless you, thank you. So that was something I also found quite interesting in exploring. And because half of the group here in Derby were in Belka, that well-dressing, the folklore, the kind of, the alien sightings, these things are our folklore and our traditions. And why did these things happen? I mean, John's probably sick of me saying this story, but I love it. So we're there, we're out, we're kind of exploring, we're finding our feet. Yeah, you know what's coming, don't you? And we met John, and I was like, John, why are there people in the middle of the pavement with weighing scales? I was like, I was literally incredulous, like, so you can weigh yourself? I was like, okay. That was just like, and you were like, why wouldn't they? Does that not happen in Derby?
Yeah.
No, you don't have anybody in the streets with a weighing scale to weigh you and tell you how much you weigh in public.
There's like a piece of baobab fruit. There's a whole diet. So they weigh you, they diagnose you, and then there's a baobab, and then there's
So it's just extraordinarily and joyful. Yeah. So these experiences that I very much want Jukwaa Arts to experience in Derby and with the artists here, it's about sharing who we are and what we do, And again, I'll go back to that point, it's very important to support local. I'm totally for that, but we are not stagnant. You have to have ideas flowing in and out and all around, and everybody here has the right and opportunity to go wherever they want to show and do their work, and people come back in and share and invite and have that opportunity to get those ideas going, really. Okay. So given the fact that you arrived yesterday, what are your impressions so far? I know, tough one, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. You wanna go first?
Yeah. Okay. So hi, my name is John Mumba, as Michelle said, and I'm so glad to be here in Derby. So, of course, things are kind of different. the weather. Yeah, it's a bit cold, but but apparently people are telling me it's warm. So I do not understand what they're saying. And yeah, that's the first thing. And the second thing, as Caroline showed you, our public transport, there are a lot of tuk-tuks around where I come from. Not necessarily the whole of Kenya, but in Mombasa, there are a lot of tuk-tuks. I don't see one here so far. I'm hoping to see a tuk-tuk. And the public transport is very timely here. Like 8:20, 8:15, the bus is already there. I'm like, okay. And I saw the driver. That was very interesting to me. The driver of the bus had a lot of responsibilities.
Oh, yeah.
So where I come from, there are also buses, but there's a driver who drives the bus. That's the only job he does. He does not even speak to people. He just drives the bus. And then there's a conductor, call him a conductor. He's on the door. He's like the accountant of the bus. He charges you. So you get into the bus, he charges you. That's his job. Then there's a manamba. We call him a manamba. That's Swahili plus English number. Ma is Swahili. So the manamba is on the, we have them on different stages. So they're the ones who announce, like, get in, get in, get in. They help the conductor. So they're being paid at the stage. And then there's a turn boy. Yeah. A turn boy is the one who helps to carry like the luggage inside. He's just a helper on the bus. He's just there in case the conductor wants to sleep. He'll be the accountant. So yeah, I saw the driver was doing all of that. He's driving, he's engaging with people, he's carrying the luggage. I say, oh, hard work. Yes, so that's what I've experienced so far. I'm hoping to get more experiences. And also, people here like to say thank you a lot. And sorry, thank you. You hit someone accidentally, he's the one who's telling you sorry. Yes, and also there's this word, pop in. I have heard that like 1,000 times. Am I just pop in? I'm going to pop out. People really like to pop here. So far, that's what I experienced. It's beautiful, and I'm hoping to learn more, yes.
Oh, wow, it's so hard to speak after you. But yeah, for me, I think it's because when we had these conversations in Kenya about the ecosystem, the arts ecosystem, from Michelle and Jarvis, it was like, yeah, it's the same. And then we come and we see you have spaces, you have beautiful art spaces, you have so many of them in a small, like, it's just a small area, but there's so many, like there's a visual art space, there's a studio, there's all this, and there's so many people working in the arts. I think for me it's a shocker every other day. I'm like, oh, okay, for us, we are not very many people working in the arts, no. So my first impression is, no, you have very many institutions and art spaces. And then now when I sit in, I hear, oh, we are not well funded. I'm like, are you sure? I'm still waiting to listen a bit more on that. Like, what do you mean you're not well funded? You all look like you're thriving in these art spaces. We are zero funded. So I think that's something that my first impression is like, it looks like it's a really working arts ecosystem, very functional, with so much support from the universities around, and yeah, and then, but the practitioners maybe have different, like, I mean, listening to the panelists earlier, they have something different to say about that. So I'm very curious about that. In my next few days, I want to delve more into what do you mean you're not well funded?
Thank you. So, you know, international working, obviously we've shared a little bit about the kind of positive elements. You know, certainly for UK new artists, often when we do work internationally, we're taking out artists who for the first time have this opportunity. Ryan, I don't know if it was your first time, but certainly when we went to China together, you know, the experiences that it speaks to in terms of your own practice, you know, this isn't, you know, this is, you may not fundamentally think, oh, you know, I can't afford to go it, or I'm not getting a fee, or, you know, this isn't happening, or I'm not speaking to that. But there are other things which you have to feed your brain with, and working internationally is challenging. Ryan will attest to that, won't we? I mean, goodness gracious, that was a challenge. But through the challenge comes solutions, comes energies, comes camaraderie, comes solutions, comes thinking. And there are also some, you know, some beautiful things that come from it. I know that when we've worked with Korea, those people, those artists who went to Korea and then came back, and those friendships are still going. And that's over 7 years. They still visit. They came and have met their children, you know. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing to have happened, to know you've got that network. Absolutely, you need a network here in this city. But you also need a network which is elsewhere, which forms your sort of thinking like, oh, but we do that here. Or that reflection like, you think you're not well funded? Hello. Oh, my goodness. You know, you need to wake up. But also, you know, what learning can be done. You know, that self-sufficiency, that DIY aspect, that kind of like, I'm going to get myself out there, I'm going to sing, I'm going to promote, I'm going to show my work, I'm going to do that, was really inevitably, because if they don't do it themselves, there is nobody else to do it there for them.
Yeah.
And in some ways, to be negative, we almost look to others to make that happen. Why isn't Quad doing that? Why isn't the City Council doing this? Why isn't, you know, I'm not saying they don't have their place to do that, but there's also a place to do it for yourself. So I think I really want to activate that kind of thinking, you know, so we're all in this together, we're all connected, the partners, the venues, the infrastructure, the funders, but the artists' voices raises a little bit about that in that landscape, because I often feel it's too quiet, and it was wonderful to see that really, you know, pushing through. And we met with the Director of Culture, you know, we spoke to the need for that to kind of push through. You know, we were hoping that he would be here, but he's hoping to come to some other work, you know, because he was interested in what we're doing. So we can set an example to the world, which is a bit colonial, but, you know, we can shine a light at what's going on here far and wide and make those kinds of connections.
Absolutely.
Being in Kenya, I've said the word, it was a colonial country up until 1954, 56?
53.
Oh, blocked quite in the middle, yeah.
No, actually,
and the
63.
evidence is there. The theatre, we were speaking about this yesterday, there is one theatre in Mombasa, and there is no visual art space. We went to Nomad, that's but no galleries like we have them. And the little theatre was built by expats, by, you know, okay, thank you, that's the ghost again. Was for the expat to put on Andran, essentially. Beautiful place. But you were saying yesterday there was a whites-only rule.
And and actually there are like 4 main theatre spaces which were all built in that colonial era between 1948 and 56. That's when including the National Theatre, it was built during the colonial era. And this one, they were more elitist spaces, and I think the current practitioners are working really hard to undo that, because that whole lot is now no longer probably there, or they are no longer going to the theatres. So of course it affected the theatres, because like for the little theatre, it was a whites-only space, I think, till the 80s. Yeah, so there are people who are born and bred in Mombasa who have never gone to the little theatre just because they don't think it's their space. Yeah. So it's
you know, it's fascinating, but not, rather grim at the same time.
Yeah.
But this is about changing those kind of spaces. So, you will face different things which are also outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And your thinking and your beliefs. You'll be in a different culture and country, and they won't have, vegan, lactose intolerant food potentially, just an example. But it's also you have to be accepting of that. And there are greater things to be learnt, and this is about taking that experience, really fully, particularly for the UK, after Brexit, after COVID. I really want to see the creatives back on that world stage.
I'd just like to add, because the first, okay, maybe I'm loud enough here, but the first engagement with these global North-South collaborations for a long time, they have been global North collaborating with the global North in the South. I don't know whether you understand what I mean, but if Michelle is living in Kenya, then it's her. She's the representation of the global North-South collaboration, because you can easily come, get the money from here and come to Kenya. But it was never Michelle and Caro. So now we are like changing that narrative so that it's actual representation of, we are actually, it's a real collaboration. I feel like the others were not doing us justice because it was just, you're just in a different place. But even the art does not include like the diversity of practice, including maybe the local way or the Kenyan cultures or the practices. And we have very diverse processes and practices, which I think are beautiful if we collaborate and work together. So this, I feel, is an opportunity to change that narrative, that now it's not just global North and global North living in the South collaborating, but it's really global North and global South collaborating, and both of us bringing our art practices. We are more performance-based, you're more visual arts-based, so how do we collaborate and bring this together as it is? Yeah, so I think that's really something I feel is a really win with the new narratives in the arts and how we are collaborating nowadays.
I appreciate that, thank you. We are getting close to time, so are there any burning questions? Otherwise, what I might do is allow you to kind of chat to Caroline and John, find out a bit more, just something a little bit more convivial than us on our little stage, before we go to summing up. So.
Thank you very much for sharing that. It's really insightful to kind of hear both Jarvis, like your experience of being in Kenya, and Caroline and John, like your experiences being here in Derby, just the cultural differences. I think the first thing that I kind of noticed when you were speaking is about what's the cultural differences, and then you kind of went on to like the differences between kind of the infrastructure regarding the arts. So a lot to learn. Definitely, I do complain about funding and stuff, so it does put things into perspective. I think, just what you were just saying as well, Michelle, around that thing. Yes, we want to be local, but it's important to have that perspective and think global, act local is something that I always kind of think about when working. So my question is for Jarvis. If you were giving an artist an advice, like an artist who was travelling for the first time internationally, to go and do something, whether it's residency or being in a space as an artist that they've never been in a culture, what 3 pieces of advice would you give to a first-time artist travelling to a different country?
I just, obviously I'm not an expert in it at all, but you want to be like a sponge. I think that's one of the reasons why Michelle invited me as well as part of that, because we had a conversation before. You want like a beginner's mindset. You don't want to think you know anything to get the most out of the experience. That's number 1. Number 2 is, it kind of relates to being a sponge. I guess it's being open-minded. And even though some things may not fit, like one of the challenges that I think me and Michelle both face is in the UK it's quite mechanistic. There's a mechanistic sense of being, whereas in Mombasa it's a bit more fluid. And that's a beautiful thing, and so that's something which has kind of been lost here a little bit, but is within, you know, artists especially. We want to remain fluid and be open-minded, etc. But the third thing, for artists going internationally.
Sorry, I know I put you under pressure there with 3 things.
What impact on your work?
Yeah, because we had a conversation on that. I think one of the things with a lot of what the artists are doing out there is it's very personal to them. And in my own experience of the work that I'm making, I've kind of been hiding behind my work a little bit and have been, just not wanting to reflect more of my personal history and heritage, which I think in Mombasa people really love their heritage. It's not that I don't like my heritage, but having grown up in the UK, there has been a loss of connection to my heritage, to my Cameroonian heritage. And so I'd say that is something that I am interested in diving deeper into. Some artists will do it naturally, but if it was a piece of advice with an artist going to international spaces, to see how the people of that place really embrace their culture and celebrate it.
Okay, thank you. There will be an opportunity to chat more informally, but I'm just going to ask Michael. Thank you. Oh God, look at me.